So, um, okay, I have 7 o'clock on the dot, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, for those of you that I don't know, I'm Jamie Stacks, and I am really super excited that you're here tonight. I'm talking about mindfulness tonight. I'll be talking a lot about self-care. Uh, I'll be talking about how I think everybody on the call tonight is a therapist or some sort of helping professional. And so I'm going to be talking about how important self-care is and how you can use and how I use mindfulness as a form of self-care. So anyway, I hope you can see me. If not, that's okay, as long as you can hear me. I do have several handouts that I attached to the invitation and to the webinar. So you should be able to look at the top of your screen and find those and open those. And I'm going to be going through them as well. And if you didn't get them, please just let me know, and I can always get those to you later as well. So anyway, well, just a little bit of kind of housekeeping stuff first. Everyone is on mute right now, and you should be able to chat in the chat box. Type a question. There's a question mark. Should be a question mark at the top of your screen. So you should be able to type a question, and it'll pop up on my questions. And I will, I'm going to take a second here in a minute, or take a minute and see if you have any questions right now. And then, of course, we'll do some quite a bit of questions and answers at the end of the webinar. So anyway, so question mark to ask questions. You should be able to raise your hand. There's a little hand and on the top of the screen, and you should be able to click that, and then it shows me that you have your hand raised, and so I know then that you have a question. And like I said, you should be able to chat as well, so you can type any questions in there. If you have any problems with the audio, with hearing me, or with seeing the screen, you can type that in there, and I will see if I can help you. Sometimes on a computer, it's delayed a little bit, and so sometimes when people have trouble hearing, then if they call in, then they can hear better. It's not as delayed. Sometimes it works, it depends on your speed that you have of your internet. So anyway, if you see me looking down, I'm making sure nobody has any questions yet. So I've got a little thing in the corner of my screen that I look at. So I'll be looking at that periodically to see if there's any questions. I will definitely get to all the questions before we end tonight. So if I don't get to you right away, then just hang on, and I promise that I will. So I think that is all the housekeeping stuff. If you want to ask a live question and you want me to unmute you, let me know, and I will try to do that. And sometimes it works successfully, and sometimes it doesn't, and I really don't know why. But anyway, I'll be happy to try to do that if that's something that you want to do. So, all right, questions. Right now, I'm going to give you just a second, and if anybody has any questions, type it in your little question mark. I'm not seeing any questions. Let me check the chat. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat box either. So I'm going to assume and hope that everyone can hear me okay, and that everyone can see me. But again, if you can't see me, that's okay, but I want you to be able to see the screen so you can see the handouts that we're going over. Anyway, okay, well, let's get started. I think that takes care of some housekeeping stuff. I might repeat a little bit of this as I see people popping on, just so that everyone feels comfortable. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I am just so excited about this because I think it's so cool that I can sit here in my my home office, which is also an exercise room. So there's a treadmill behind me. And I can do presentations, and you can sit wherever you are comfortably at home or your office or wherever you choose to do it. And we can connect. I just think that technology is so cool. You can do that. So anyway, I'm really, really excited about this webinar, and I'm really glad to have you join me. Tonight I'm primarily talking about mindfulness, and I love, love, love mindfulness. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see here. So you should be able to see the handout. Hang on, it tells me it's waiting for the next screen. Okay, so I'm going to turn my webcam off here for a little while so you guys can see the screen. Okay, it should be loading. And what I'm looking at first is one of the handouts that you should be able to open. And you should, okay, it's telling me now, it's showing me that you should be able to see it now. So hopefully you can. And this is just a little bit about what we're going to be going over tonight. If you are live on the webinar, then you will be able to receive 2 CEU or continuing education hours. That's accredited through NBCC, the National Board of Certified Counselors. I have a continuing education provider number through the National Board of Certified Counselors, and so when I do presentations, that means that mental health professionals, at least the ones that I'm aware of, can get continuing education hours. And I think that's really important because I want people to learn about mindfulness, and I want people to learn about self-care and a lot of the things that I talk about. But I also think it is a very, very important part of being a helping professional. And so I feel like you being able to get continuing education credit for it is important. I know that when I look at doing a webinar or I look at going to a conference, I mean, that's the first thing, or one of the first things that I ask is, can I get CEUs for it? Because I want to go to events that I enjoy and I want to learn about, but I also want credit for my time. And so I chose to pursue the national number because for a long time, my presentations that I did counted for social workers and for nurses and other helping professionals, but not for licensed professional counselors in most states. And I am a licensed professional counselor. And so I just found it very ironic and upsetting that people with my licensure couldn't get credit for what I was doing. So to solve that problem, then I got the continuing education provider number. And the reason that some of you might be wondering, so I want to explain the reason why you have to be present at the time of the webinar. I have not yet applied for, I'm going to, but I haven't applied yet for the online or what they call a home study certification. And so anything that I give continuing education credit for has to be in real time, okay? We don't have to be face-to-face in the same room, but it does have to be live in real time. And you have to be able to ask me questions, and you have to be able to interact, you know, I mean, like you would do at a real conference. Well, this is a real conference, but like you'd do at a face-to-face conference. Just got a question on here that I've noticed. How long have I been practicing? That's a good question. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, I guess, because I don't know a lot of you. Some I do, but some I don't. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I have been licensed since 1999. So that's quite a while. Can't do the math in my head real quick, but been practicing since 1999. I also have my license in alcohol and drug abuse counseling, LADAC, if any of you have that. And I've had that for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe. I worked a lot with substance abuse, but I didn't ever get the license until a few years ago. But that's something that I hold now. So I've been practicing since 1998. I've done a variety of different things. I've done lots of therapy. I've done a lot of school-based therapy. That's what I started out with. I did that, and then I got a little burned out on that. If any of you do school-based therapy, you might understand summer programs can be pretty exhausting. So anyway, I did that for probably 8 or 10 years. And I did some outpatient therapy kind of mixed in with that while I was doing school-based. So I kind of did those together. And then after that, I switched to outpatient for a while. I've done some inpatient work. I do LAC supervision. Some of you are LACs. Some of my supervisees are on here. Yay! I'm glad y'all are here. Thank you. I do LAC supervision. I've been doing that for, I think I got that certification in 2009, maybe, somewhere around in there. So I've been doing it for a little while, and I absolutely love doing that. I really enjoy meeting new people and interacting with new therapists, and hopefully helping to encourage them in the field, because it can be kind of difficult. It can be stressful at times. So what else have I done? Let's see. I've done private practice. I had a private practice in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then I moved to Hot Springs, which is where I am from, and I started a private practice there. And I've moved again. I'm living in Conway, Arkansas, and so I'm working on getting a private practice going here as well. I do trainings like this. I kind of got started doing this. I worked for a community mental health center for about 10 or 12 years. And if any of you have worked in community mental health, you can get burned out, which is one reason I think mindfulness and self-care is so important. But anyway, when you get burned out, the good thing about community mental health, at least for me, was I had options on different jobs that I could do. So I could switch jobs within the agency. And so I did that. And I had quite a few different jobs within the same agency. Therapist, I did school-based coordinating. I coordinated a school-based therapy program. I did Medicaid authorizations for chronically mentally ill adults. I did clinical training. That's how I got into this. That's what I was saying. I got into this because in my job as doing authorization specialist, doing Medicaid authorizations, I had to deal a lot with Medicaid and value options. And if any of you have had any experience with that, you might know that it can be a little bit tricky and that they change the rules on you a lot. And so I kind of got into the habit of checking the Medicaid website and checking value options website like all the time to find out what they had changed that they weren't really letting us know about, so that I could let the therapists and the agency know, so that we could do our paperwork the correct way. And so in doing that, I started doing trainings, and then I was asked to coordinate all of the clinical training for the community mental health center that I was working for. And so I did that for a little while. I created clinical training for the therapists, the mental health paraprofessionals in the organization. And as much as I loved doing that, I was primarily teaching Medicaid paperwork, and I think that's very valuable, and I think people need to know that. And I think personally that a lot of organizations don't really do a great job of training, and that's an area that I think a lot of places could improve on. But I didn't want to teach Medicaid paperwork forever. I love teaching. I love speaking. I do presentations at conferences, things like that. But I didn't want to talk about Medicaid all the time. I wanted to talk about things I actually enjoyed, like mindfulness and meditation and self-care and all that fun stuff. So anyway, that's how I got into doing these trainings for CEUs. And I already explained a little bit about why I got the National Board Certified Counselors Continuing Education Provider number. So anyway, that is a pretty good history on me. So I have a wide variety of experiences, which I think is really important for any clinician, but I really encourage my supervisees or anyone new in the field to do a variety of things. Because if you don't do a variety of things, you don't know what you really like. We can tend to get stuck in whatever we're working on and feel like that's our area. That's the best place for us to be. And maybe it is, but if you haven't ever done anything else, you can't really say that. I learned that personally. I set out to work with a variety of populations. And I had done that. But there was one population that I had not worked with because it made me a little nervous, quite honestly. I had never worked with chronically mentally ill adults, and I thought, I thought I wouldn't be good at it. I thought I wouldn't like it. But I had a chance to do it, so I followed my own advice, which was do what scares you and try everything. And I tried it, and I loved it. Like, it's my very favorite population now. And so, I would have never thought that. I never would have thought that I would have enjoyed that as much as I do. And so you have to try. You have to see, what's out there and what you like. But anyway, since I don't know all of you, I'm assuming we have a variety of different levels of experience on the webinar tonight. So I'm going to try to talk to all of you. I'm going to try to talk to those of you who are new in the profession, and I'm also going to try to talk to those that have been in the profession for a long time. Mindfulness, it's sort of a buzzword right now. You hear mindfulness a lot. I talk about it all the time. I explain it to clients. I encourage people to use it. I read books about it. I started studying. I really got into mindfulness in 2008. I had sort of done a little bit with it before then, but not just a whole lot. And in 2008, I had the opportunity to take the mindfulness-based stress reduction course that Jon Kabat-Zinn created out of the University of Massachusetts. If you haven't heard of Jon Kabat-Zinn, then I encourage you to look him up. He is really, really awesome with mindfulness. He created the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, and it was originally designed for, or the referrals came from doctors. And so it was a lot of not necessarily people with mental illnesses, but people with chronic illnesses. Cancer was a lot of what he dealt with in the MBSR to begin with. Chronic pain, migraines, anxiety was one of the mental health aspects that was there all along. So he created this program that is 8 weeks, and what you do, it's if you've heard of it, then I think that's awesome. If you have done it, I would love to know, because I think it's really cool if anybody's done it. And if you get the chance to do it, I really, really encourage you to do that. I'm on the track to be a teacher for mindfulness-based stress reduction, but it's a very long, drawn-out process. So it takes a while. But anyway, the 8-week course, you go to a class either one evening a week, or they had a Saturday option when I did it. And you go to class for a few hours. You talk about mindfulness, you talk about meditation, you talk about stress and how it affects you. But more than learning about that, you learn actual tools to help you that you can implement on your own. And a lot of that mindfulness-based stress reduction program is the homework. You do the guided meditations in the excuse me, I'm sorry, I was checking my questions again. Okay, you do the meditations in the class, but you get a CD, a guided meditation CD, that they ask you to practice on a daily basis for this whole 8-week course. And gosh, it was like a 45-minute guided meditation, which, if you've never meditated, wow, that's kind of hard. I really, when I very first started doing it, that's a struggle to do 45 minutes. Or, if you've not done meditation for a long time, 45 minutes can be a struggle. But I love the idea behind why they make that a part of the course. They want you to give it a chance. They want you to really try it, really integrate it into your life on a daily basis so that you can see the benefit. And that's, I think that's probably the very most important thing that I learned out of that course, that I had, I was extremely lucky to get to take. So anyway, mindfulness, basically it's be here, be present, be in the here and now, focus on what is, not what's happened in the past that you regret or you don't like, or not what's going to happen in the future, obsess over that, but what's going on now. And one of the keys to mindfulness that I think, and in fact, if I could ask you to get anything out of tonight's webinar, I would like for you to get this. And that is, mindfulness is being aware of what is without judging it. Without judging it. And that can be really tough to do. That can be a really tough thing to do, because we really like to label things as good and bad, don't we? I mean, if something happens, then we say, oh, well, that was a good day, or, that was a bad day, or this was good, or this was bad. But, if you think about it, a lot of things have that label and have that good or bad attached to it, because we do that. We give it to that event, or to that day, or to whatever happened. And so sometimes something isn't really good or bad, it just is. Sometimes things just kind of are. But our society and all, I think we all tend to, we have to identify it, as something good or bad, or happy or sad, or we have to give it a label. And to me, that's judging a lot of times what's going on. Certainly some things are just bad and some things are just good and happy. But a lot of things are only that way because you choose to think of them in that way. And so if you can let go of the judgment, and you can let go of the labels, and you can just be present with what is going on, you'll find, or I find, and when I work with clients, which I do all the time, I find that when people really implement it, you're not so set on defining something as good or bad, and you're more likely to just kind of view things as just events. And the events don't make you. What happens to you isn't who you are. It's a part of your experience, but it's not who you are. I use mindfulness with clients a lot. And we're going to get to a PowerPoint here in a minute that you should also have as your handouts, or in your handouts. And one of the things that I talk about on the PowerPoint, but I want to mention here, is that if you plan to implement mindfulness into your therapy practice, if you plan to talk to clients about mindfulness and meditation, and you plan to ask them to practice it, I really, really, really encourage you to have a practice first, because this sounds, it can sound really easy, being focused, being present on what is, but it's really difficult to do in reality. It can be really difficult to implement. And so I think that as a clinician, if you try to implement this with your clients and you haven't actually done the practice, I think you're going to be, I don't think you're being fair to your clients or to yourself, because you don't really know what the experience can be like. And you don't know the frustrations it can cause when you try to do it and you have trouble. And so I just think it's really important that if you're going to teach this, or you're going to ask people to use it, that you use it yourself. So anyway, I'm going to try to switch over to the PowerPoint now. We'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, it should be up there now. The screen is just a little bit delayed. I'm going to take a minute and pause. If anybody has any questions so far, I'm going to check my questions box and my chat box. If you have any questions about what I've talked about so far, if you're just have any questions about anything, feel free to answer or to ask those now, and I'll go ahead and take a minute to answer them. Too, if you have had any experience with mindfulness or meditation, I'd love to know that. I think it's really cool to hear what people, what experience they can have. What have you had with it? What have you done? What have you experienced? If anybody has done the MBSR, wow, that's really cool, and I'd love to know that too. So anyway, I'm not seeing any questions pop up, so I'm going to go on with okay, I got one, hold on. Yay, I like questions, let's see. How can you process an event without labeling the emotion it brings? Okay, that's a really good question. Practice. It takes a lot of practice, which is one of the reasons that if you're going to implement it with clients, I think it's so important that you have a practice of your own first. Because and as clinicians, as therapists, as helping professionals, I think sometimes that we do this even more than other people do. We want to label emotions. And that's good. And that's important, because we help our clients identify emotions, right? We help them identify, what anger is and what sadness is and whatever they're experiencing. But when you label it, or I think it's more judgmental, when you give it a negative or a positive connotation, then I feel like you're judging it. And therefore, it's going to have that negative or positive effect on you, because you've decided that that's what it causes. And again, there's things that are just bad, right? When we lose loved ones, or when loved ones are sick, we have a bad day at work, stress. Some things just, okay, that's just kind of yuck. We don't like that. But there's a lot of things that happen that some people would label good and some people would label bad. And that's where I'm talking about that your judgment comes in. Today, I'll give you a very personal example. Okay, so I'm working and I am not doing a summer program, but there is a summer program being done in the building that I'm working in. And, quite frankly, I've had enough summer programs. But so my instinct is to label that bad, right? My instinct is to say, ugh, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be around this. And I can do that, but how does that serve me? It doesn't. It doesn't serve me in any positive way. It doesn't serve anyone in any positive way for me to say, because I've experienced this and because it's not really my thing, then it's bad. So, I can label an emotion. The question, was about talking about the emotions. I mean, I can label an emotion without making it good or bad. So, like summer programs and a lot of chaos makes me a little bit stressed out, okay? And it causes a little anxiety for me when, I hear screaming all day. And so I'm labeling the emotion, anxiety, a little tension, a little frustration. But, I can, if I'm using mindfulness, and that is what I've been doing this summer too, a lot of it, is just thinking, okay, that's just kind of what's going on. It's an experience that I'm having right now that everybody in the building is having, but it's not going to be my experience forever, and I'm not going to hear this forever, and it's okay. And so I can decide, to get really worked up about that anxiety and about hearing it and about being stressed and about the frustration, or I can decide that I'm going to let it go, and it might not be ideal, but it doesn't have to be bad either. And so when I talk about labeling, I'm more talking about labeling events as bad or good, negative or positive. Some emotions get labeled as good or bad. Sadness, most people say is a bad emotion. Anger, most people say is a bad emotion. Anxiety, most people don't like. But if you think about it, without some sadness, without some depression, without some anxiety, without some bad mixed in with our good, then the joy we experienced wouldn't be nearly as joyful. If everything's good all the time, it becomes kind of normal, and it doesn't have as much effect. And so, we really need all of those emotions to kind of balance out our life event, really. And that can be kind of difficult for people to grasp and difficult for people to do, because when you're feeling sad, it's really hard to say, oh wow, I'm glad I'm experiencing this because it will make the good times better. But if anyone, and I'm sure that we all have gone through a period of time where you just have a rough time, a lot of stressful events, bad things, things that we would label bad, deaths, illness, things like that happening, and you just feel not good, sometimes for an extended period of time. But then when you get through that, if you've had the experience of going through a really bad time and then coming out of it, wow, I mean, it's an amazing relief when you come out of that. And I think that that's something that I'm talking about, is if you don't have the bad, you don't have the good. It's not as good. And so sometimes the bad maybe isn't so bad after all. Anyway, I hope that answered your question. And let me check and see if there's any more questions or any more things in the chat box. I'm not getting anything from anyone that you have. Hold on just a second. Okay, one more question. Hang on. No. Mindfulness is a new concept. So would you agree? Oh, a new concept to me. Okay. Would you agree that the lack of mindfulness and meditation can cause anger and resentment towards clients? besides recognizing that, what is the next step in correcting that? Okay, so if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're saying that if you don't understand and you haven't done mindfulness and you haven't done meditation yourself, that you're going to have anger and resentment towards clients. And how can you make that better? Feel free to chime in if I'm not answering your question correctly, but I don't necessarily think that you have to have a mindfulness or a meditation practice in order to be a good therapist. But I do think that if you are going to implement it in your therapy, then it's important to have a practice. And if you're feeling anger and resentment towards your clients, then I'm going to say that probably you're not taking very good care of yourself, that your self-care is it's lacking. It's not where it should be. And I see that over and over and over with clinicians. In fact, I've created an entire self-care program because I think it's so important. If you're feeling angry, if you're feeling resentful towards your clients, you got to take a look at what's going on with you. We all know clients can be difficult, right? They can be, but that's why they come to us. If everything were okay with the clients, they wouldn't be in our office. And so it's sort of, to be expected that they will be hard to deal with at times, and that you're not going to like every client that you interact with. And that can cause a lot of anger, and it can cause a lot of resentment when you're tired and when you're burned out. But if you can take better care of yourself, and mindfulness, I think, can come in a lot here, because if you can kind of look at what you're feeling, look at, okay, I'm feeling anger and resentment, and it's, you're probably judging that. You're probably saying, okay, that's a bad thing. But if you can look at it and show yourself some compassion and think, okay, why am I feeling this anger and resentment? I invite you to get really curious about that. Why am I feeling angry and resentful towards these clients for having problems when that's what they're here for? Is it something that you haven't resolved in your own life? Is it that the agency or wherever you're working has expectations that are not reasonable? Are you taking good care of yourself? And those, I think, asking yourself those questions and getting curious about that is a big step in learning or starting to correct that. Recognizing that being a therapist is hard. We might not lift heavy stuff all day, but I tell you what, I'm exhausted at the end of a busy week. And I know you are too. That energy that we give out, we have to learn how to get back. Because if we don't get that energy that we give back, then we're depleted. And we can't help. We can't help our clients, and we can't help ourselves, and we can't fully be there for our families. And we will be angry and resentful. One thing with mindfulness and the whole non-judgment, I invite you and I ask you to look, okay, if I'm really frustrated and angry and I don't like what my agency's doing, and I don't like, maybe what somebody else is doing or something, can you do anything to change that? And if so, take responsibility and do that. And if you can't do anything to change that, then you have a choice. You can either accept it and try to learn to think differently about it. Try to be very mindful and non-judgmental and just think, okay, this is what it is, and try not to get worked up about it. Or you can change. you can change where you work. You can change the people that you're around. And if any of you do my self-care program, which I'd love for you too, that's a big part of it, is talking about support. And we really are going to go into depth and looking at the people in your life that support you and the people that don't. And that's really big in self-care. You have to have that support to really be able to take care of yourself. So, I'm really glad that you're here, even if you are new to mindfulness and meditation, because I absolutely love talking about it. And if I could just get one person to try it tonight, I would be just so happy, because I get kind of obsessed about it. But that's because it has made so much of a difference in my life. So, okay, I do. I'm kind of getting a little bit off track here. I apologize because I tend to do that sometimes, but I do want to give you just a little bit of background on why I started studying it, because I think it's really important. Okay, so, I've been practicing, at the time for probably, I don't know, it was probably about 9 or 10 years. And I loved what I was doing, but I was working about 3 jobs, and I had a child, and I had a husband, and I had a family outside of that. And I also liked to have a life, with friends and doing things for myself. And it just wasn't happening. There's only 24 hours in the day, and when I'm working 3 jobs and I'm overwhelmed, that stuff doesn't happen. I don't take care of myself. And I was not happy. I wasn't miserable, but I certainly was stressed. I was certainly overwhelmed. And it occurred to me, probably a little later than it should have, that was me. That was totally me. I had to make changes if I was going to feel better. And so that's when I began studying mindfulness and yoga. If you know me, you know I love yoga. And I'm going to be completing some training for yoga and mental health and implementing it and working with some clients. But yoga is a moving meditation, essentially. So, it's along the same lines as meditation. It's just a moving meditation. So that's a quick background on why I started studying this. And then I got obsessed with it because I think it's just amazing. And I saw what a difference it made for me. And that's another reason that I strongly encourage you to have your own practice. So, okay, I'm going to go through this PowerPoint. You have it, or you should have it. If you don't have it, somebody please send me a message and let me know. It should have been in the handouts. But I'm going to go through it real quick. Anyway, there's a few points and I don't want to miss them. So, all right, so mindfulness and meditation and how to make it work for you. And here's one thing that I want to say up front, okay? This works. Mindfulness and meditation work. They have been studied. They have done research on it. It works if you do it. When I start working with clients on it, or anybody, when I encourage people to do it, a response that I get is, okay, well, I'll try. And so they come back and they say, well, I tried that, but it didn't work. Well, okay. I asked them, well, how long did you try it? Oh, well, about 5 minutes. So you tried it for 5 minutes and it didn't work for you. That's not surprising. That's why it's called a practice, right? You got to practice it. You got to commit to it. You have to do it long enough to see the benefits. So how to make it work for you? My point in all that is it can work for you, okay? It works, but you have to do it. So, all right, let's see here. I'm going to try to move to the next slide if it will. Oh, here we go. Meditation is for you too, right? It's instinctive to all of us. Human beings have a natural disposition to just be. But we have gotten so far away from that. And we do and do and do and do all the time. And and we forget how to just be. And so no wonder we get resentful and angry and tired of taking care of other people and helping other people when we're not taking care of ourselves. Meditation, in some form or another, dates back at least 6,000 years, and it's still around. So I'm going back to it has to work, right? I mean, I don't think anything's going to hang around for 6,000 years if it doesn't work. There's many types of meditation. I'm talking tonight about mindfulness meditation, and it's one that I use a lot, but there's moving meditations like yoga and walking meditation, mantra meditations, sound meditations. You can do guided meditations, or you can have like a CD or something online where people guide you in it, or a therapist. I guide my clients in meditations, sometimes in sessions, or you can do it yourself. I highly recommend using guided meditations until you are more comfortable with it. If you're just starting out and you've never done it before, if you sit down and try to just sit and focus on your breath for 45 minutes, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get frustrated because it's really difficult to do. But if you have someone guiding you, it's a lot easier. And then you can work. Some people never like doing it on their own, and that's fine. You can, or you don't have to. There's nothing wrong with using sound or a person or guided meditation. Anyway, studies and research show that a consistent, and the key word there is consistent, practice can change your brain patterns. There's, for so long we thought, okay, our brain patterns don't change, and all these things that are going on, we can't change it, but we can. We can rewire our brains. And I think that is just the coolest thing ever. The fact that we can do something ourselves at home or in therapy or wherever you are that can literally change and rewire your brain is just amazing. And go back to my title there, meditation is for you too. Because yes, it can work for you. It's not just for everyone else. It's for you too, okay? And that, the non-judging and that everybody can do it, and the learning to just be without judging, I think are probably the two most important things I want you to get tonight. Okay, let's see here if I can get my screen to change. Okay, for you and your clients, I have a presentation that I do on using mindfulness and meditation with clients. And I have a program that I do with my clients sometimes, and that I do online sometimes. But again, I'm going to go back to the fact that if you have not used it, if you have not done it, and you haven't actually tried it, I really recommend you do before you start trying to use it with clients. I just think that's really important. So put that in there again. Here's some research projects, and you have the PowerPoint, and so you can look these things up. Now, I encourage you to just look up, do a search on mindfulness meditation for mental health. Meditation for mental health, meditation for anxiety, mindfulness for well-being. You're going to find so much stuff. You're going to find a ton of stuff. And when I have clients, and in fact today I had a client who I of course was talking about mindfulness and meditation with, and I could tell they weren't too thrilled about it. However, this particular client really likes to look up stuff online. And so I said, okay, here's your homework for the week. I want you to look up mindfulness and meditation and how it improves mental health. And so that was the homework I gave him, was just to research that. And so I hope he does, and hope he tries it, because he's suffering really really severe anxiety, and this is, in my opinion, the best thing for it. So anyway, okay, so some studies. More studies. Yeah, this is very interesting. It shows that it has a positive effect on the brain by decreasing the density of the gray matter. The parts of our brain that create stress, the parts of our brains that, cause us to have anxiety, when we're changing the chemistry in that, I mean, that, again, that's just amazing. I think it's just so cool that we have the power to do that. Okay, mindfulness. This is kind of repeating. I talk about it. I encourage people to use it. I plan programs around it. I read books about it. Since I started studying it, it fascinates me because it makes so much sense and is so simple. However, keep in mind, it can be very difficult to actually implement. And so if you decide to try and implement this in your life, please don't give up. Please don't give up. If you need help, if you need support, find a program, find a class to take, where you can get some support. And I can give you guys some input on where you can do that if that's something that you want to do. So it's a simple process. It's a simple concept. Be present, be here, focus on what is without judging. But it can be really difficult to do. It takes practice, okay? And I've talked about this some already. You're not typically going to see immediate benefits. So if you go home and you do some deep breathing for 30 minutes tonight, then you might feel relaxed and you might feel somewhat better. But, tomorrow your anxiety or whatever you're, stressed about is probably going to be back and you're going to have the same feelings. But if you do deep breathing every day for 6 to 8 weeks and commit to a daily practice, then that's when you really see some change. And that's why the MBSR mindfulness-based stress reduction program was so good for me, because I paid money to do this, quite a bit of money actually. So, I was going to commit to doing my meditation. And doing that, I found out how well it works. So committing to a daily practice for 6 to 8 weeks minimum to really see some benefits. Keeping a record of each practice, I think, is really important. Sometimes we underestimate the impact or the value that something might be having on us if we just think about it. And so if we record it and we can go back and look, sometimes you see that, oh, okay, I was having some really pretty good days with that. And I have I think I attached to your handouts a couple of practice worksheets that I do when I do my program, and we'll kind of go over those a little bit. Keep a record of each practice. Monitor your mood, and I have a typo there, sorry. Monitor your mood and your stress level before you practice, after you practice, what was it like during your practice. I think that's important to see. So it takes practice. It does, and it's not an immediate thing. Mindfulness, we can do mindfulness meditation. And yes, practicing, 30, 45 minutes a day is ideal. But you can create mindful moments throughout your day, all the time. When I called them mindfulness minis, and I have those on the practice worksheets, which is just sort of a little reminder of things that people can do throughout the day. But, feel what you're feeling. Here, we're back to the non-judgment. That's how important I think it is. That's what we're back to. Feel what you are feeling without judging your thoughts. If we don't like what we're feeling, if it makes us uncomfortable, our clients do this and we do this as well, we try to change it. And some people do that with, alcohol or drugs or food or shopping or exercise or staying so busy that you don't have time to think. Because when we get really quiet and we get really still, then sometimes we don't like our thoughts and we don't like how we feel, and we judge it as bad. And so we go back to doing, so that we don't have to feel that. And that's completely normal, but it's not benefiting you in any way to continue to avoid your feelings. Just like when you're working with clients, you want them to be able to be present with their feelings and work through them and be okay. And it's important for us to be able to do the same thing. Now, some mindfulness, some things to do to create mindful moments. Choose a routine activity and do it mindfully. Be aware, be really present. So something that you normally just kind of do without thinking about, like, okay, let's say washing dishes. Okay, I don't love to wash dishes. So when I wash dishes, I can sit and I can think about how terrible it is, and how I want to be done with it. And I hate washing dishes. And this is just a waste of my time. Or I can do it mindfully, and I can focus on the sensations of the water, the warm water on my hands. I can choose to be present and be mindful and smell the soap. I can choose to, see cleaning the dishes and watching the food coming off of it as a bit of it's a rewarding thing to do. Hey, I'm actually accomplishing something, but I can see, working with clients, you can't always see what you're accomplishing, but when you're washing dishes, you see them get clean. And if you're doing that mindfully, there's some satisfaction in that. But you can do that with anything. You can do it with showering, getting ready in the morning, getting ready for bed at night, just doing it slowly and thinking about what you're doing and really experience it, rather than just rush through it, which is what so many people do. And you miss out on your life when you do that, because we don't remember whole years. We don't remember whole weeks. We don't even remember whole days. We remember moments. And the more that you stop and become aware of what's going on in the moment, you're going to remember that more. You're creating more memories, and you're choosing to live your life more fully when you do that, I think. The last tip on here, I think, is so vital. When you're talking to someone, be present. Don't talk at people. Talk to people. Talk with people. When we're talking to somebody, how many times are we thinking about what we need to do when we get home? Or, oh, I've got all this paperwork to do. And you're not even focused on, what the person's talking about. Or sometimes, this is a really common thing. People talk to wait for their turn to go next, right? We've all experienced this. So when you're talking and you say something, or your partner, whoever you're talking to says something, and you're thinking, oh yeah, I had something like that happen to me. So you stop listening and you're thinking about your own experience, and you're waiting for that person to be quiet so then you can talk about your experience. I would invite you to consider if you're really present, if you're doing that. To be present and to really focus on what the other person is saying without thinking about what are we going to do next. That's a tough one, but I think it's really important too. So creating mindful moments, that's just very easy. The present is all we have. How long or how often, how many times, are you thinking about what happened in your past and, oh, I regret this decision, or I wish this person hadn't done that, or I wish I hadn't done or said this, or you're in the future and you're thinking about, wow, I don't want to have to do that paperwork, and I need to go home, and I need to go to the grocery store, and I need to do this, or even further, in the future, and what am I going to do when I retire, or I don't like this job, I have to find another one. And certainly you have to think in the future sometimes to make plans, of course, but when you live in the future, then you miss out on the present and the here and now. And right now, this moment in time is all you really have right now. Monitor your thoughts. become aware. Becoming aware is a huge, for me at least, was a huge step in mindfulness. Become aware of when you're not here, when you're not present, when you're thinking about the past or when you're thinking about the future, and kind of just notice that without, oh, sorry, another typo, I should have read this closer. I'm sorry, just notice without observation. No, just notice without judgment. Observe it, just observe it, you know, and kind of watch that for a little while and then decide, you know, am I really living my life here and now, or am I living my life in the past or in the future? Just be aware, become aware. I mean, the key to changing any behavior is becoming aware of it. If you're not aware of it, you can't change it. Bringing it to your clients. I really, really believe that if any of you try this, that you're going to want to share the benefits. I really do. Once I saw all the benefits, I mean, like, I just couldn't stop talking about it, and I would drive my friends crazy, and I probably still do. But that's okay. You'll want to share it because it's really, really amazing. You know, I do, like I mentioned before, I have a program that I use on clients, and I'm going to be doing some trainings on implementing mindful and meditation programs with clients. I've done those online. I've done those face-to-face. I've done a combination of technology and face-to-face. You know, so if that's something you're interested in doing for your clients, I think that's fantastic. But, you know, again, I encourage you to do it for yourself first. Okay, some resources here. Jon Kabat-Zinn is amazing, and I highly, highly encourage you to pick up some of his books if you've not read any of his stuff. He's wonderful. Let's see. Pema Chandran. Wow, I love her too. Thich Nhat Hanh. You know, all of these focus on teaching that through mindfulness we can learn to live happily in the present moment, and that the only way to truly develop peace in yourself and according to Thich Nhat Hanh in the world is to be happy, be present in the moment. And those are their websites that I just think have really, really great information. And so I'll put those on here if you want to look up those. And I highly recommend any of the books that Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chandran, or Jon Kabat-Zinn have written. They're all excellent, excellent. Okay, and that was the end of my PowerPoint. So I'm going to take another minute here to stop, and I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. So if you have any questions, we'll take a second here to answer questions before I talk about the worksheets. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. I'll watch here for a few more minutes. Is any of this resonating with anyone? You know, are you hearing anything that you think might be helpful to you and your self-care and your life? You know, think about that. That's what I want, is I want you to be able to implement this, and I want you to see the benefit of it, and I want this to be something that you want to do. So anyway, okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead. I'll check back here in a few minutes. Sometimes they can be a little delayed in popping up, but I'm not seeing any. So, okay, I just want to talk about the worksheets that I put on here. And I have, when I do the program that I do, I have, gosh, I think my program's 6 weeks. I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it's 6 weeks instead of 8. I give these worksheets to the participants, and I ask them to keep a record of their practice every day. You know, and you'll see at the top, you know, week 1, day 1 through day 7, you know, the date and the time. So just kind of keeping a record of when you are practicing. your mood level before you start. So, you can rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, good to bad. You can, put the emotions that you're feeling, anxious, stressed, happy, whatever it is you're feeling. And notice when you do that, notice if you're judging, right? If you're labeling things that don't necessarily have to be labeled. And then I ask participants to rate their mood level after they do the deep breathing, after they do the meditation. To see if you're still anxious, if you were anxious before, if if you're calm, if you were happy before, did it depress you? Did it, because sometimes, and that sounds a little strange, but sometimes when people are not used to meditating and they start meditating, it is crazy the things that will pop up in your head. When you get quiet and when you allow your thoughts to really kind of come and go without judging them, just watching them, it's amazing. And some of the stuff that comes up is stuff that you may not have thought about for years and you may not even want to think about. But it's there for a reason, and like we tell our clients, if it's still there, or I tell my clients, if it's still there, then it needs to be dealt with. Clients will say, oh, well, I've tried to forget about that. And my question is, well, how's that worked out for you? Because I don't think you would be sitting in my office if you'd really forgotten all the stuff that happened, right? Because people don't end up in your therapy office if you're, if they're happy and everything's going really well in their lives. So anyway, so your mood, looking at how it changes with the practice that you do. And then on these worksheets, I have the mindful minis that I put on here just to remind people of things they can do throughout the day. And typically when I do this program too, I have a text component and I text people a couple of times throughout the day and just say, just something like this, like, okay, take notice several times throughout the day of your breath. Bring awareness to your breath and be mindful for a few minutes. So just stop and just be, inhale, exhale, just become aware of your breath for a few minutes. Choose a routine activity and do it mindfully. We talked about that a little bit. Make an effort to capture your life. Take snapshots of events that occur throughout the day. And this is kind of what I was talking about, and we don't remember, a whole day. We don't remember everything that happens. We don't remember a whole year. We don't remember, everything. But if we stop and we kind of take a mental picture, then we file that away as a memory. And if you stop to do this throughout your day, you're going to be present for your life more. Doing one thing at a time. If you're eating, just eat. Think about the way that the food smells and the way that the food feels in your mouth and the way that, it tastes, and just kind of really be present with eating. Slow down. We rush through everything, and it kind of goes back to the doing, and we do, but we don't take time to just be and to just be quiet and to just do what we're doing. If you're reading, read your book. If you're reading, don't also, be texting someone and checking your email and eating dinner, because then you're really not doing any one thing. You're sort of doing a lot of things, but you're not gonna be present for them, and you're not going to experience the full effect. And so those, just an example, and I gave you two. I think I put on the handouts 2 of my worksheets, and these are the actual worksheets that I use when I do programs and worksheets that I give to clients. So feel free to practice and to try it and see what you think. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to take a look here if I've gone over all the handouts. I think I have, except I have, and I guess I could pull it up, but we have there's another practice worksheet, and I don't need to go over that. I mean, you guys can read that, and it's the same as this one. It's just for, week 2. So I encourage you to look at those, print them out, and change them, make them yours. Make them yours. All right, so we've gone over all of the handouts, and I have, shared some ways that you can start to implement mindfulness into your life. I have shared some of the things that I think are important, the non-judging, the not necessarily making everything good or bad, but just kind of experiencing things. So what are you guys thinking? Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? Is anyone thinking, wow, I think this would be great? Or, you're crazy. This is not going to work for me. And people, I get that a lot, and that's okay. So, okay, let's see. I have a question. Where can we find guided meditations? Oh, that's a really good question. Thank you. You can, somebody's loving it. Yay, I'm so glad. Thank you. I love hearing that. You can find guided meditations online for free. You can enter, in a search, in a Google search or whatever, guided meditations, and you can just, if you do that, then I really encourage you to try some different ones to kind of see what you like, because some guided meditations are going to be more like a visualization, and so they're going to have you close your eyes and take some deep breaths and picture yourself on the beach and really feel the sand beneath your toes and hear the water and smell the salt in the air. It's going to kind of take you to a location and walk you through that. Others might be like the body scan, which is used in John Kabat-Zinn's program. And basically it's what it is. It's what it says. It's a body scan. You start with your toes, and you feel your toes. You just pay attention. You put all your awareness in your toes. And then, on the top of your foot, and then in your ankle, and you just move all the way up your body, and you bring awareness to, to what you're feeling in your body, and again, without judging it. And so, okay, for example, like right now, if I'm being mindful, I was sitting on my foot, and so now it's asleep. And that's okay. I'm just, I'm mindful of that. And so, you can be mindful at any time of what's going on. Just kind of feel what you're feeling. And so, I could label my foot being asleep as really bad and horrible. But you know what? I just sat on it too long, and it'll be okay. So, again, it kind of goes a lot back to how you think about it. Let's see here. It looks like I have another question. Okay, this is a long question. Okay, hang on. Here we go. This reminds me of when I was a singer. Oh, at our Native American drum. Oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. In our songs, we focused fully and completely on the song, yes. But in doing so, we also focused on the circle of what was there. Oh yes, the wind, the hawks crying out, the mountains. Oh yes, the fog. That is mindfulness. Yes, that is what you're doing. It's just being aware of everything that's going on. That is such a perfect example. And that, if you're gonna give it a name of a meditation, it's kind of a sound meditation, I guess, because you're focusing on the drum and on the song, but you're aware of everything that's going on too. Some people ask me in these trainings, and no one's asked tonight, but this kind of made me think of it, and so I want to bring it up. Or really, some people want to know like a quick, easy exercise in mindfulness that they can do themselves, or that they can do in therapy, or they can do with anybody. And one of my favorite exercises to do with people starting out with mindfulness, and you can do this with children or adults, and you can do this yourself too, close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Set an alarm for like 2 minutes or 1 minute, and just listen. Listen to all the sounds around you. Hear the air conditioner, hear the fan, hear people moving around in the room. Just hear what's there. Be aware of it. And again, don't judge it. And so, when I'm hearing the summer program, I could label that as really bad, or I can just notice it. That's noise. That's kids screaming. That's, that's that. And just notice it. So, the exercise hearing, and then I often guide people through taking a few minutes to look around the room and look at what you see. Just kind of look at everything in the room. And then I often ask people to then close their eyes after they look and tell me, what can they remember that they saw? Bring awareness to it, notice it, observe it, and then what can you remember? Because that, again, that's where you create those memories. That's where you create those moments. And you can also do the same exercise with feeling. You can have a client or anyone or yourself, you can close your eyes and you can take some nice deep breaths, and you can just see, what do you feel? So right now, I feel the carpet on my feet. I feel the air, when it flips on. I feel, what do you feel? I feel the pressure of the chair that I'm sitting in. I feel the back of the chair on my back. And just noticing what you feel. So that's a really good exercise, for people who are starting out. What do you hear? What do you see? And what do you feel? I really like doing that one. Kids are pretty good at that one too. Just if you work with kids and you talk about mindfulness with kids, this is what I get most of the time anyway, is they're so trained by adults to behave and make good choices and mind. And so when I talk about mindfulness, they think I'm talking about minding, follow directions. And I totally see where they think that, because that's kind of what we harp on a lot as adults, right? But it's hard to get kids to be aware that mindfulness is not necessarily doing what people say. It's just being aware. And so sometimes I don't even use the word, because it really doesn't matter if they know the word mindfulness or not. It matters if they learn the practice. And if, meditation, some people are going to freak out if you mention meditation, but most people do something that's somewhat meditative anyway. And so in working, finding your own meditation or working with clients, get curious about what you love to do. Some people love to cook. And so when they're cooking, they're focusing on the food, they're focusing on the stove, they're focusing on the smells, they're focusing on the cooking. And so what they're doing is they're being mindful. They're being present. They're there in the kitchen cooking. And that's why they find it so relaxing, because they're staying in the moment. People who exercise, I like to run. I haven't been able to lately, but when I do, I find running really meditative for me, because I am able, when I run, to run and observe my thoughts and just kind of watch them. And I don't get caught up in them. Probably because I'm trying to breathe and run, but it's very meditative for me. Some people knit or sew. that's a very meditative thing. So when you start looking at implementing a practice yourself or with other people, look for something that's already there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Start there. Focus on that, and then you can move on to some other stuff. Okay, so hold on, let me check the chat and the questions and see if I have anything else. I am not, let me go up here. Okay, so the guided meditation, where to find them? I'm online, you can find them. You can also find them in stores. I mean, you can buy them, but you can buy them offline. You can buy them in like bookstores and stuff. But I suggest looking for free ones online or creating your own. That's a good thing to do too. Or having a friend create one. I create these for my clients sometimes. If they, because if I do guided meditations, excuse me, with them in sessions, then sometimes, when they try to do it themselves, they're like, I can't do it. But I don't encourage them to always use my CDs because I don't want them to find me meditative. I want them to find a practice in the practice of it, right? So I don't want them to just relax when I do a guided meditation. I want them to be able to seek this outside of therapy and outside of what I might present. So, that's one thing I'm really careful about, is trying not to get them used to me, but used to the practice. So anyway, okay, let's see, questions, back to questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, here's a question. Okay, let's see here. Is there an ideal goal for how long to practice meditating in one sitting? You know what? That's a very, very individual decision. To get really a good benefit, my suggestion is, no less than 20 or 30 minutes and, as much as 45 minutes to an hour. But if you're starting a meditation practice, if you're starting a mindfulness practice, that might, just drive you crazy at first. And so you might start out with 10 minutes. You might start out with 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. And then slowly work your way up. Again, you might do the guided meditations to make it easier. You might do the body scan to make it easier. You might do yoga. You're moving with your breath in yoga, which is why it's considered a moving meditation. If you've ever done yoga, you inhale your arms up and you exhale your arms down. And you inhale and forward fold, and you're moving with your breath. And so it keeps you very centered. It keeps you very in the moment, because you can't coordinate your breath with your movements if you're thinking about your grocery store or whatever it is that you have to do when you get home. And that's why some people, find moving meditations a lot easier, because they're focusing on moving. And so it kind of gives them something to focus on other than their breath, but still gives them that meditative quality. And what I really encourage is a combination of all of it. See what works for you, and kind of try to just do different things. Spice it up sometimes. Like do yoga sometimes, do sitting meditation sometimes. You do lying meditations sometimes. Just sound meditations. All sorts of different ones. So you just got to kind of find your own rhythm in it, though. Okay, let's see. Have I used this with ADHD clients? Oh my goodness, yes. I try to. As you can probably guess, that can be a little difficult to get them to do sometimes. But yes, and I've had a lot of success with it, actually. I typically start out with the simple things like the hearing. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? And then with people who are ADHD or have trouble paying attention, I do a lot of visuals and a lot of things that they can pay attention to while they're doing the deep breathing or while they're doing the meditating. to kind of keep them focused on that. And so, if I'm working with somebody who has ADHD and I'm working to teach them deep breathing, I might ask them, to kind of lay back in the chair, and close their eyes. And, a lot with kids, I do this too, is say, put your hand on your stomach. Put your hand on your stomach and just kind of relax. And then, I'll have them inhale. I'll do some kind of guided breaths. So I'll have, I'll say, I want you to inhale while I count to 5 and feel your stomach rise. Feel the breath go up through your chest as you're breathing in. And then I want you to exhale to the count of 5. And I want you to feel the breath going out. And I want you to feel your stomach lowering back down. So just take a second right now, just to kind of show you what it does. Everybody kind of place your hand on your stomach. And I'm going to count, and I want you to inhale through your nose to the count of 5. And then we're going to exhale through your nose to the count of 5. And I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to feel your stomach rising and feel the breath. Okay, so we're going to inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that's kind of how I approach working with a lot of kids, and especially kids with ADHD, because I want to give them enough to to keep them focused, that they can pay attention to, and still get them to do the breathing at the same time. And I really try to get parents involved when I'm working with kids with ADHD and breathing. And I ask the parents to help them practice their deep breathing at home in very, very short spurts. So, if you have a child with ADHD, start out with 2 minutes, because 2 minutes, is enough to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And when you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your heart rate lowers, your blood pressure lowers, your body temperature lowers. It's the part of our body that calms us down. And so if you can just get, a kid to breathe for 2 minutes and activate that parasympathetic nervous system and feel a little calmer, then you've accomplished something. And, I encourage the parents of kids I work with to do it with them, because a lot of times the parents need the deep breathing and the coping skills as much, if not more, than the kids. But yeah, I've used it a lot with ADHD. I've used it with children diagnosed with Asperger's. I've used it with oppositional defiant disorder with kids. I've used it, I think I've tried it with like every population that I've ever had. And it, what, everybody's not going to get it. Everybody's not going to do it. Everybody's not going to give it a fair shot. And that's okay. My thing is, if I can teach it to some people, and then those people teach it to some people, and then those people teach it to some people, then hey, we're doing good, because we're spreading the word. I mean, that's one reason I like to do trainings, is because I figure, okay, if I get you guys on here, hopefully one of you will try this. Hopefully all of you will try this, but hopefully at least one of you will. And then you talk to somebody else about it, and then they talk to somebody else, and it spreads further than I could ever possibly spread it myself. I mean, I can do it with every client I ever have, but that's not going to, I want it to go further than that. Okay, let's see. I have another question here. After just starting, what is a good indicator that we have practiced successfully? Okay, well, first of all, if you practice at all, you're successful, okay? And if you're wondering whether you're practicing successfully or not, then you're judging, okay? There's no right or wrong way to meditate. There's no right or wrong way to focus on what you're focusing on, okay? So if you're doing it, you're successful. You know, and we're so used to that. And I get that question all the time. Well, how do I know if I'm doing it right? Well, you're judging. When you're asking that, you're judging. If you are doing the practice, you are successful. And if you keep doing the practice, you know, again, I ask people to commit to a daily practice, you know, 6 to 8 weeks. At the end of that 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to know you're successful because you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to feel a lot different. You know, research has shown that people who practice meditation on a regular basis don't react in their everyday life to things the way that they typically would. They're a lot calmer in reaction to everything. I mean, it's just, it's really amazing. And it's really something that, I mean, I can talk to you about all day. Anybody can talk about it. But if you don't practice it for yourself, you don't see it. So, so you're successful. If you do it, you're successful. You know, and if you do it for 5 minutes and that's all you can do starting out, that is fine. You know, you can work up. Again, you know, I think 20, 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour is really good and ideal, but you're not necessarily going to start with that. Be compassionate with yourself. You know, don't judge what you're doing. Give yourself time. But that's a really good question, and I'm really glad that it was asked because it gives me a chance to point out how that can be a judgment if you're asking yourself, am I doing this right? All right, any other questions? Was anyone expecting or wanting anything out of the webinar tonight that we haven't covered? That maybe you thought would be covered and it wasn't. I mean, if you'll pop that up as a question, I may be able to address it real quick, but if I can't address it tonight, I can certainly get you some information on it. When I do live presentations, I hand out index cards and I have people write a question or an expectation that they want to get out of the training, and then they pass them forward, and at the end of my presentation, or close to the end, I read those, because if somebody hasn't gotten what they want out of my training, then I want to be able to try to do that for them. So I can't hand out index cards on webinars, but I do like to give you this time at the end to let me know if there was something you were hoping for that wasn't covered. Okay, not seeing any questions. I'm going to check the chat box because sometimes people respond in the chat box. Okay, not seeing anything there. Okay. All right. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes. If you think of any questions, then just go ahead and ask. Thank you so much for being here. I love talking about mindfulness. I love talking about self-care. I think mindfulness is a huge part of self-care. If you are interested in learning more about self-care, I have I talk about it. I have programs that deal with self-care. I have an 8-week program that's coming out starting July 6th. It's a program that I created called Real Self-Care, and the real is radiant, essential, amazing, life-changing self-care. And it's broken up into 8 weeks. And each week we look at a different area of self-care that sometimes people don't think about. You know, we look at values and how your values impact your decisions. We look at, like I mentioned, your support system. You know, is it serving you? And if it's not, how can you change that? We look at spirituality, you know, not necessarily religion, but, you know, the belief in something bigger than yourself, and how that can impact, you know, your mood and your self-care. We look at a lot of different stuff. We cover a different topic every 8 weeks. I'm pretty excited about that. So, if you are interested in that, please just send me an email. Let me know. I would love to have you join me. If you just want to read some more about self-care, I have a website, www.realselfcare.org. And I think I put that on the handout too, so you can go there. And I have a therapy website as well that's got some of the same information, but it's www.jamiesachstherapy.com. I'm going to end up merging those at some point, but I haven't done it yet. So anyway, all right. So I got a comment. Okay, all questions answered. Awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you. Good. It's resonating. Good. I love to hear. Okay. Somebody goes running. Yes. You focus on your breathing. You can experience a calm that you can take with me. Yes. Even after I've stopped. Absolutely. Running is very meditative for me. Yes, exactly. I love it. I love that it's resonating with some of you guys. And I'm really glad. I'm really glad that it is. All right, well, I'm going to give it just a few more minutes. I'm going to stay on the line. If anyone has any more questions, please let me know. I will be sending the CEU certificate to all of you because you were live on the event, and so you can get the CEUs. And I explained in the beginning, why you have to be live at the event. So I will get those to you within the next day or two. If you have any questions that you think of after the webinar and after I click off, just feel free to email me. I'm happy. I love talking about self-care and mindfulness, so it would make me happy if you did. Okay. Well, I'm not getting any more questions, so I'm going to assume that people have gotten all their questions answered, and that we're done here. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you have found something that you can try, and I really encourage you to give this a shot. It's absolutely can be life-changing. All right, thank you guys so much. I'm so happy to do this. This is fun. I love doing these, and thank you guys for your time. All right, I'm going to click off now. So if you need anything after we're done, email me. All right, everyone have a great night and practice some breathing.